Hey everybody, it's Ann Beebe. Today is July 7th, 2020. I'm Barb Hammer. So first of all, I want to say today is an anniversary. I just learned this. I didn't know this. I'm always learning things about China. So on July 7th, 1937 is when Japanese imperial forces attacked Chinese forces on the mainland outside of Beijing. And that started the Second Sino-Japanese War, but that is considered the beginning of World War II. Some consider that the actual beginning of World War II, 2 years before it started in Europe when the Nazis invaded Poland. So anyway, that's when the war in the Pacific Theater began. So there have been Japanese forces in China since the late 20s, from what I recall. So, but that's when the war really broke out. And it's an important date that Chinese remember. So that said, I was not planning to do another video about Nathan Rich, but I can't help myself. So I talked about how he disappeared from social media, and I believe his girlfriend did too, for over a month. And I realized it was the old stunt about to come back and say, "Oh, I need more money." So he's back and he's put out several videos. And another thing is he received an award from CCTV. It's the Touching China Award. So I don't know that much about this award. So CCTV is one of the three big outlets in China, I guess state run or affiliated. And they give this award out every year to 10 figures in China that basically present a fairly positive image. So I laughed when they gave this award to Nathan because I know Nathan, from what he says about China, he's a disinformation asset. He's sort of positive about China, but he always tends to bring things back to the official narrative of the U.S. Really, it's a lot. He has a lot of fans in China and outside of China, and people get confused when I criticize Nathan. They think I'm anti-Chinese or something, and I'm not. I'm just pointing out how he kind of tricks his audience, fools his audience. He puts out some truth, but he doesn't tell you the whole truth. And he, as a lot of disinformation assets do, they subtly smear targeted countries. And Nathan does that to China. So it's interesting that he received this award. And I know a lot of state media outlets have to register in the US with the Justice Department to operate. And I suspect, and others I've talked to, they agree with me that they probably have to agree to certain conditions and make compromises, let's say, in their content. And I don't know if CCTV has had to do that or not. So Nathan received this big award and he's very proud. And this is the image from his Facebook page of, I guess is the images that they were showing in the TV presentation. So this is the CCTV channel. And so there's like a 7.5 hour video, I guess, of the award ceremony. And there's Nathan up close and personal. And there's Nathan in front of a computer. And I guess these are images all from the program. There's Nathan again. And I don't know what that says. I can't read Chinese. There's Nathan out on the street, man on the street. Yeah. So he's very proud of his award. Oh, it's called the Touching China Award. I believe it's the Touching China Award. Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, touching China award. Yeah, he announced it on his Facebook page, and he's got these same images. Um, but I'm calling it the Screwing China Award. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this is a digital translation of the about the award, and I was just kind of glancing through it. So, um, and this about the network that presented the award. And I didn't realize this is a very familiar building in Beijing, and that's the CCTV headquarters. So it's kind of like an L-shaped arch. And I think there's more to the building here. That's the CCTV headquarters. Very impressive building. Yeah, so it's a state-run media outlet. This is its Facebook page. Oh yeah, here they're talking about this. I think they're talking about the war, the first battle of that Second Sino-Japanese War, which triggered World War II in the Pacific Theater, the beginning of the war, 1937. So it was fought at this bridge, I believe. So anyway, I really want to talk. I don't really want to talk so much about Nathan as what he's saying. So that's the point of all this. So people get upset for me criticizing Nathan, but it's about what he's saying. So I talked about the video where he came back and he needs money. Okay, fine. He's grifting big time. So after that, so he's done 3 short videos since then in the last week or so. And one was COVID-19, another Spanish flu. So people have been trying to get away from calling the 1918 outbreak the Spanish influenza because it didn't start in Spain, but all of these outbreaks, they tend to smear certain countries. So that outbreak, it began in the US at a military base, and COVID-19 likely originated, and the outbreak probably started in the US. And Nathan actually talked about the evidence to support that, and then he just dismissed it all. So this is the problem with Nathan. He will always deflect blame from the US. That's the problem I have with him. And he'll always bring everything back to the official narrative. So it comes across that he's giving you some truth, but not really. Not so much. So in that video, he's talking about there's been some evidence of traces of the COVID virus, or the COVID virus, which is SARS-CoV-2 or whatever, a variation of the SARS virus back in 2003, I think. And so he talks about that. And the other thing about his videos, they're very, it's pointed out to me, they're very choppy, jumpy, over edited, like from one word to the next and it'll give you seizures when I don't know what the point of that is, to make it catchy, eye-catching. I don't know why are they over edited? Like, it's just stupid. Something wrong with that. I'm not sure. I don't trust Nathan. I just don't trust Nathan. So yeah, he's trying to deflect blame, all constantly trying to deflect blame from the US and the COVID virus. And he doesn't talk about the whole corporate agenda in the West. This whole virus hype, this virus that is not bubonic, it's not the Black Plague. And before that, his last video before he sort of disappeared from social media was the new face of COVID-19. He was trying to make it seem like France was the origin, because the military team that came back from the Wuhan military games in October 2019, they had it. So, I mean, that's just bullshit. It's not France and it's not Spain. And then he does a video about the Hong Kong national security law, analyzed But he doesn't analyze it. He pulls this stupid stunt and he thinks he's funny. And I thought they're just dumb, these videos. So he starts reading the laws in the US about sedition and treason and the penalties. And he's making, but he's got it, he's holding up a folder that says US law or something. And then he's acting like this is the new national security law in Hong Kong. But he's reading the text of the law in the US and he's going, wow, this is more serious than I thought. Yeah. So he's making that false equivalence. So the laws in the West, all of these disinformation assets, China watchers, supposedly pro-China, they make the false equivalence between the national security law in Hong Kong and national security laws in the West. And they say, well, if Western countries can have national security laws, why can't Hong Kong? And well, the national security laws in the West are to terrorize people. The national security law in Hong Kong is to protect people and protect the sovereignty of China. It just makes me so angry what these disinformation assets like Nathan Rich and Daniel Dumbrill and others, Angelo Giuliano, and these, it's like a big sausage fest. And these guys are just going to lead you down the garden path. They're not going to tell you the truth. So that's that video. And the latest one that came out earlier today was Hong Kong basic law violated. And so his argument is because the Hong Kong, he's blaming the Hong Kong government, blaming the Chinese government, blaming the Hong Kong government above all for not passing the national security law. And he's arguing that therefore the Hong Kong government violated Article 23 of the basic law, and that the agreement between China and the UK for the return of Hong Kong is null and void, I think is essentially what he's saying. But Nathan won't talk about why the Hong Kong government was not able to pass the national security law for 23 years. He doesn't mention that Macau, which is also a special administrative region, just like Hong Kong, Macau was returned to China in 1999, 2 years after the UK returned Hong Kong to China. So the Macau government, they were able to pass this national security law for its region in 2009. Yes. Hong Kong, every time the Hong Kong government tried to pass the law, all of the regime change assets, the CIA, MI6, NGO regime change assets, that whole CIA complex of NGOs, intelligence assets, media, diplomatic staff, many of whom are actually intelligence officers, they orchestrated protests to stop it. So it was a vicious circle. I think I've talked about this before. I've talked about the national security law and what it was about. The origins go back to Tiananmen Square in 1989, another color revolution. It was an attempted coup. The West was trying to overthrow the government in Beijing. And that's when the Beijing government decided, we need a national security law and we need them for Hong Kong and Macau too. But they had given the responsibility for passing the law to the Hong Kong and Macau governments. Macau was able to do it. Hong Kong wasn't, because there were so many intel assets and all these NGOs. I mean, just tens and a couple of, I don't know, 30, 40 NGOs or more, never able to do it. Does Nathan tell you that? No. So he blames the Hong Kong government. Why didn't the Hong Kong government pass this law? Well, and finally Beijing said, okay, that's enough. We're going to pass the law for Hong Kong. So I'm going to talk more about the law and the security apparatus that Beijing is setting up in Hong Kong. It's very interesting. The man put in charge, very interesting guy. He knows about these destabilization campaigns against China. He knows about the regime change operations against China. He's had to deal with it before. Does Nathan, do any of these disinformation assets tell you this? No. They just feed you a little bit of truth, and they build up an audience, a very gullible audience, I think. And people just are too trusting of these guys. And it's always, it's just a bunch of dudes. And I'm getting smeared. I'm really getting angry about being smeared, not by Nathan, but others. I'm the crazy old lady. So that's what Scott and I talked about in my previous video. So I'm really fed up with these guys feeding their audiences a lot of bullshit and not telling them what's really going on. But I'll tell you. And I've got a lot more videos planned about Hong Kong, the national security law, and a lot of other things. But anyway, I just had to get this off my chest about Nathan. So anyway, that's it for now. Talk to you again soon. Thank you very much for your patience. And if you like the video, give me a like, subscribe, share. Anyway, thanks again. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye.